Hi there, this is Saeed, your host of The Bloom Show. So, welcome to The Bloom Show. And the intention of The Bloom Show is to help the flower innovate, connect, and bloom through networking, collaborations, and building community. This year, we've taken a different approach and we've pivoted, like any pivot, we've pivoted to include guest hosts. And we're allowing these guest hosts to invite their own guest onto the show and ask whatever questions they want, and really bring their own personality. So really excited on this show, and really it's always an honor and a privilege to have such professionals, people in the industry, and really giving their time to give it back to the community. So and that we'll be watching live, to comment, like, share, and most importantly, do also subscribe, but most importantly, comment, ask questions, chime into Jimmy, give a shout out to Barry. We all want to feel supported, and this is really important. And not only that, just ask questions and opportunity. And I already gave away the guest, but the guest experts, their insight to questions that you may have. So the opportunity. We're having Jimi Santoli, which is AKA Jimmy the Tulip. He has 30 years of experience in the right out of high school. He jumped into the flower industry. And a reason I asked him on board is because he's always, I consider him one of the, like, in the flower industry. He's always on LinkedIn. He's very active. And one day I'll love to interview him and ask him how all this activity helps his business. But one thing he's always doing is positive reinforcement, putting great quotes out. So he had the great idea, but both of us thought, why not invite the group Gottlieb? So Barry Gottlieb is author, speaker, success mentor, and trusted advisor for many, many years within the flower industry. He might have told Barry or not, but he really looks up to him. So we're really excited to have them both come together, connect, ask questions, and rick his brain, and hopefully we will all learn something today. So please allow me to invite our guest host and our guest, Santoli, Jimmy the Tulip, and Barry Gottlieb.
Hello,
Hey.
Barry. What's going on? Wow, what an intro.
Yeah, impressive.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So first of all, I want to say, Barry, thank you for agreeing to do this. I know you're a busy man. So to take 20, 30 minutes out of your day, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you to Saeed for putting this all together. We've been going back and forth emails and for the better part of a month trying to get this set up. So again, I just want to thank you.
Well, Jimmy, let me tell you something. It's my honor, my privilege to be here because you're the guest host and Saeed's a good friend. And so I'm happy to be here. And before we get into anything about me, I have to tell you, Jimmy, the posts that you put on social media are very positive, very uplifting. And if people are not following you yet, I highly recommend that you follow Jimmy. If you need a little infusion of good in a world that seems to be headed towards negative, Jimmy's posts are amazing. So thank you, Jimmy.
Well, thank you. And like Saeed said, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. You actually were on our podcast not too long ago here at Jet Fresh. So I got a little more insight into you, and you do as well. So which I kind of followed in your footsteps. And a lot of the stuff that I post is also for me, for reading it to myself, kind of reminding myself, hey, the world may be going downhill at certain points, but, listen to yourself.
Yeah. And you know what, Jimmy, the beauty of you doing that, and if more people did that, there's an old saying that whenever you teach, you become the student.
Yes.
So basically what you're saying is absolutely true. When you make time during the day to put something positive out into the world, yes, it's there for other people, but you're benefiting from it greatly. And I love that you're doing that. So I applaud you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So jumping right in, how did you get into I mean, I've heard your story. You, like I said, you were on the podcast not too long ago, so I've kind of heard your story. But for those who have not yet, how did you kind of get into the mentoring and the motivational speaking again, which I follow? And you
long before the floral industry, um, I always wanted to have a positive impact on the world. And I thought that the way to do it would be through becoming a teacher, but not a teacher of secondary or middle school. But if I could have a positive impact on kids that are from, when they first start school, some even preschool, all the way until they hit that middle school, what a great way to add something positive to their mindset as they're growing, because so much of who we are and what we do, all of us, has been programmed mostly from the age of when we're born until we're 7 years old, somewhere around there. That's a huge piece of who we are.
right.
And so I thought if I could have an impact, so I became a teacher. And I went from being an elementary school teacher to a principal to being fortunate enough to also teach at Santa Fe Community College and the University of Florida. And so my mentoring, it's sort of a continuation. I'm fortunate. I'm one of those people that knows what my purpose is in life.
Right.
And whether I was in business or whether I'm doing the things that I do, writing books, my purpose has always been, as a teacher, to inspire and empower others to reach their full potential. Nice. That's my mission statement.
Right. What and you get, how do you, and what is your feeling like? How do you, when you help somebody and you see somebody, through your mentoring, they progress, how do you feel about it? What kind of feeling do you get from that?
Well, that is the greatest reward. One of the things that I share all the time is that even though we would love to think that knowledge is power,
right,
it's only power when we apply it consistently. And so when I see an individual making progress,
right,
or when I see a team making progress together, or a company, or when I see a leader of a company changing the way that they interact and the culture that they sort of grow into, the reward is amazing to me. That to me is the best part about it.
Now, shifting a little bit into the floral industry, what kind of advice? So I kind of jumped into the sales side. I kind of jumped into the floral industry by accident, which I think a lot of people do. I kind of
me too, Jimmy.
Out of high school, I needed a job. I didn't want to do fast food anymore, so I just kind of went to a flower shop and started off at the bottom. Started off as a driver, sweeping floors, cleaning glass, and eventually did retail events. And about 8 or so years ago, not having any formal training, I jumped into sales. Didn't know what I was doing, was scared, crapless. Thankfully I had some people that saw something in me and kind of took me and said, okay, this is what you're not going to do, but this is how we kind of want you. So what kind of advice can you give to somebody who had like a similar situation that I did, that didn't really have any formal training into sales and kind of struggles with that? And even though I have this experience now, I still kind of struggle with that every day. Like, am I good enough, or am I going to make my numbers, or
Yeah. And just as a footnote, when my partners and I built the original Continental Farms, first of all, I was very fortunate to have great partners. There were 3 gringos and 3 Colombians, and every one of them a great person in their own right. And so I had great friends, great partners. And then from there, we grew as, just a handful of people to growing this company that had over 400 employees and grew to 75 million. But the point that I'm getting to is that in all of our years together, I only hired one person that had flower sales background, and most of them had no sales background. My belief is that every day, each and every one of us, we're negotiating, whether I'm negotiating with my wife where we're going to go for dinner or what we're going to have for dinner, whether I'm negotiating with my kids, whether you're negotiating with a client, that the greatest skill that any of us can learn if we want to be great in sales, focus on how to be a great listener.
Right.
And learn that selling is not telling. Selling is about asking questions. And the reason we ask questions is to build relationships.
Right.
Because you're really not in sales. You're really in the relationship business. And so when you think of it in those terms, so anybody that's coming from any industry, really what you want to hire are people that have great attitudes, okay? Right. That you feel that you can train to do the work. There isn't anybody in the world that we cannot train to do the job of selling if they have the attitude that they want to learn, that they have a growth mindset. Right. So yeah, listening and understanding that sales is about relationships, and one of the greatest skills you can have is learning how to ask great questions and be an incredible listener. So
yeah. Good. So as you know, Fern also is our sales manager here.
Absolutely.
So he tells us a lot of stories about when he was under your wing. And one of the things he tells us about all the time is, are you a duck or are you an eagle?
Yeah.
Explain and then maybe elaborate on
well,
that.
You know, I think that the other advice that I'd give to anybody that really wants to get good at anything is be a continuous learner. And so for me, I've spent my entire life learning. Right. I think I would blow your mind how much I read every day. And I'm always looking, even in my 7th decade, I'm still looking at ways to improve myself. And I think if people do that, so the eagle and the duck really comes down to, are you an eagle or a duck? You know, ducks, they like to congregate together. They waddle around, they quack together. And eagles, on the other hand, are these amazing animals. They soar high, they have incredible vision, and they are the predator, not the prey. So they are the victor, not the victim. Right. And so for each of us as individuals, we have to sort of take a look at the people that we associate with. If the people that we associate with are ducks, we're a duck. Right. If we want to be an eagle, we need to surround ourselves with other eagles. And that's the duck and eagle story, man.
Good. Yeah, Fern tells it all the time, but I wanted to we could hear it from the proverbial horse's mouth. The other one he's always hammering us is the persistence breaks resistance.
Yeah. Well, you know, so often in anything that we do, it's okay. Look, for anybody in any business, and if you're in sales in the flower business, when a customer says no to you, you have to understand that that no only means no that very moment. That doesn't mean that something is not going to change, whether it's in that flower shop, whether it's in that wholesale house, whether it's in that event planner. You never know when something's going to change. Right. And when those changes happen, if you are like most people that dive into sales, if they're not willing to persist, they don't do very well because they accept that first no. And I'm not suggesting that we should, like I did in the old days, beat my customers up with asking them over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know, I think that the persistence part is understanding that wholesaler or that retailer event planner that you're calling, when they say no to you, it just means then. They don't know if all of a sudden the next person that walks into that floral shop has somebody that has an event this weekend, and the person that was supposed to take care of their flowers has failed, and now they need 10,000 something or other. If you're not building that relationship with that buyer, and if you're not persistent enough to call them, they don't have time to say, well, who can I call? Right. It's that person that stands out in their mind.
Right. They want to know that they can pick up the phone, or
you want to be there.
And they right away
Definitely.
they give you a call.
Definitely.
What's your best advice for someone that is like I was, a little reluctant to maybe get into sales, where they want to either try it or they have a little bit of a sales background, but maybe not necessarily in this industry?
Well, I think to answer you, it's simple. People need to find mentors,
Right.
coaches, whether that's through a TED Talk, a podcast, a book that they read, a seminar that they go to. And once they absorb, if indeed they really want to get better, once they absorb it, they got to apply it consistently. It's like if you go to the gym once a month thinking that that's going to help you get in shape, it's not going to happen.
Right.
If you want to be good at sales, if you want to be a good doctor, if you want to be a good lawyer, I don't care, whatever, if you want to be a good truck driver, the more practice you have, the better it gets. It's like the people that serve us in our businesses that are in the transportation part. For a lot of them, they do what they do so well that it becomes automatic. So if you want to be great in sales, you have to do it enough so that it's automatic, so that you don't have to think about the steps.
Yeah. Okay. What about culture? How important is work culture? Like having fun?
It's the key.
Yeah.
It's everything. Look, the best success and the things that have always made me feel the best is when I've been able to go into companies, whether my own or anybody else, with my mindset being that the place to start to help a company be better is to help the people have a better day every day, to have a better life. Okay. When you take care of the people and they're happy and they feel safe. When we talk about company culture, the number one thing needs to be psychological safety, that you, Jimmy, or anybody that works at your company, and I know your company, the culture is amazing. It is just, I mean, you guys could write a book on your company culture. I mean, I think it's awesome. And I hope that somehow along the way, my influence on Fern had something to do with that, but it is, you got to have fun. You have to take care of the people. Culture is all about understanding that people need psychological safety. You have to be able to come to work where you feel safe physically and emotionally. There needs to be diversity. There needs to be that you can speak up without being yelled at, that if you make a mistake, that you're honored for that mistake, because guess what? If we're not making mistakes, we're not growing.
Right.
When people make mistakes over and over again, it's then a leader's responsibility to get them to recognize that that's a choice. That's no longer a mistake. That's a choice when you make it repeatedly.
Right.
But anybody can make a mistake and you have to be open. So psychological safety is the key. Taking care of the people. Company culture is everything. And I think what we have seen, because of what happened in the pandemic and what's happening in the workforces out there, the importance and the companies that have the best company culture. And look, if you listen to a guy like Gary Vee, who I recommend to anybody that's, you guys that are the millennials and Gen Z, if you're not tuned into Gary Vee on Instagram or on LinkedIn, you're missing out. But even a guy like Gary Vee, is what he talks about all the time now, that in business, it's about kindness. In business, it's about taking care of the people that work with you. See, I look at each company, Jimmy, when I say customer, okay, to me, if I'm the owner of the company, customer to me means everybody that works with me, not for me, with me, and everybody that we serve, whether it's vendors that sell us stuff or whether it's customers that we sell to. Those are our customers. And they should be at the top of that that organizational chart where people have the CEO up there, and then look, at the very top is the customer.
Right.
Because we all work for you guys, for the customers. We work for the people that work with us and for the people we serve.
Yeah.
And companies that get that are the most successful ones.
Good. Yeah, Fern has definitely had you have had an influence on Fern, because when we have our morning meetings, Fern will, give the words of encouragement and say, and then, it'll stick with me. And then, I'll go and I'll read something that you've read. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard that before. So
Yep.
So it's good that it's, he's pushing that on you.
And lately he's talked about wooba daba.
Yeah. Most memorable experience in the industry, whether it be good or bad.
It would be all the friends. There wouldn't be, it's all the friends that I've made, whether they were retailers, event planners, wholesalers, growers, competitors. It's the people. That's the most memorable thing for me, are the people that I had the
Okay.
pleasure to associate with in
And
the
it's,
industry.
okay. What's your take on social media in this industry? It's kind of a
Like
juggernaut that we
most things,
can't
it's
really
like this.
control. So how do you think
Okay.
that social media has kind of influenced us?
Yes. I wear this yin yang because there's dark and light. Social
Right.
media
Yeah.
has dark and it has light. And it's like that old story about the grandfather with his grandson, and he's telling his grandson on the walk that, inside me, grandson, there are two wolves that are fighting. And the grandson says, "What kind of wolves?" And he says, "Well, one is a good wolf and the other one's a bad wolf. The bad wolf thinks about hate and anger and all this, and the good wolf thinks about kindness and love and helping others. And they're fighting all the time." And the little grandson says to the grandfather, "Well, which one wins, grandfather? Which one will win?" And the grandfather looks down at his grandson and says, "Whichever one you feed." And so social media, you have to decide, we all have to decide. I hope everybody recognizes that every algorithm that's in social media is designed to help somebody sell you on something
Yes.
or someone. Hope you all get that. And so you get to choose whether you want to be an eagle or a duck.
As I've gotten older, and I just turned 53 last week. So as I've gotten older, I've been getting more into like mindful meditation and, um, just meditating and breathing exercises. What's your take on that? How do you feel that, especially in an industry like the flower industry, where it can at times be stressful,
Yeah.
particularly Valentine's and Mother's Day? What's your take? How important do you think that is?
Well, the great news, Jimmy, and it's a great question. The great news is back when I started meditating, which was 54 years ago, everybody thought it was sort of this woo-woo kind of thing. Now, all the research that's being done, all the research talks about huge benefits, both physically and emotionally, from using mindfulness, meditation, those kinds of things. And whether you're in the flower industry or whether you're a tax accountant that's doing taxes and everything's late right now, it is remarkable. And so I'm going to give a couple of hints for people, okay? One is, if you have access to Netflix, there are two incredible programs on there. One of them is called Headspace, a Guide to Meditation. And then another one is called Headspace, a Guide to Sleep. And for anybody that wants to perform better in their job, in their relationships at home, meditation, mindfulness, and a good night's sleep, all the research is saying it is probably the most important thing that we can be focused on if we're not already doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I started getting into it. The beginning of last year, I get a physical done every year, and my blood pressure kept going high, and they kept wanting to give me medication. The doctor was like, "Well, you're right there on the border. We can give it to you. We can not give it to you. You control it." So I said, "I don't want to take medication yet if I don't have to. So let me do my own thing." I changed the way I was eating, and then I discovered this, mindful meditation, breathing exercises, and kind of controlling myself, and not stressing myself out for things that sometimes you can't control. You just have to kind kind of
And
go.
the key to it, Jimmy, is consistency.
Yeah.
You know, like it's what I talked about. You can't go to the gym once a month. You can't
Right.
do breathing exercise just once a month.
You gotta keep.
The more you do mindful exercises, breathing exercise, the more
Right.
you get into meditation, it has a residual effect. And
Yeah.
it's remarkable the research that's been done for people that are lifelong meditators. And when they check their brains and the difference in the brain. And the last thing that I'll say, because I know you're probably pressed for time soon, is that there's this old thought that by the age of 25 your brain can't change. That's not true. Science has
Right.
found that out in the last decade, that neuroplasticity, we certainly can change and rewire our brains even when we're in our 70s and 80s if we choose to.
Yeah. I've started my drive to and from work is usually 45 minutes to an hour. So I started kind of shifting more towards listening to music, and I'll throw a podcast on, and I'll listen to 45 minutes to an hour of a podcast on the way home. It helps me with traffic too, trying to not run people off the road.
Yeah.
All right. Some quick fire questions before we end. Sushi, pizza, or subs?
Subs.
Cat or dog?
Yes.
Other than the flower industry, if you could be, and teaching, obviously you were in teaching, what would be your ideal dream job besides hitting the lottery and not working?
No, that wouldn't be my dream job. Wow. For me, it's just being a mentor.
Yeah.
That's it for me. That is my dream job. I am living my dream job.
If you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Well, it would be a few girls that I dated that I probably should not have.
There you go. Well, Barry, I want to thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time out to no, thank you. Appreciate you 100%. Sahid, I want to thank you guys for putting this together. Sahid, I know you're back there, so we're going to be wrapping this up now. And again, for everybody, tune into the Bloom Show. Sahid's got a great thing going on here, connecting, innovating, and just bringing us all together in this industry. So thank you very much. Thank you again, Barry. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Sahid, watch out.
So
thank you.
So I saw a couple comments, but yes, I should watch out. You're right, Barry. That was an awesome Barry's part, and it was awesome to see two like-minded people and someone that, like Jimmy, that respects Barry so much. And I hope that it was valuable to both gentlemen for your time and chiming in. We did have a couple of things. Nicole said, "Sahid, is this being recorded?" Yes, it is. You can always go to the Bloom Show, subscribe, and press the little alert key so you don't miss an episode. And I'm just jumping on and don't want to miss what these two legends are saying. So Jim eyes are already. So that's a great thing. And then I haven't read this, so it's funny. I mustache a quick question. Book list or Barry's podcast suggestion. Can we get a few of Barry's suggestions? That's a great question. Barry, I'm going to bring you in a quick question. Let me bring you in real quick. All right, there we go. Barry, you're there.
Okay.
Mimi had a question.
Yes.
She says, I mustache. We should have a Barry's book list or a Barry's podcast suggestion. Can we get a few of your suggestions?
Okay, so here we go. I would write these down. Mel Robbins podcast, unbelievable, excellent, always on point. Jay Shetty's podcast, always incredible, always on point. Brene Brown podcast, always on point. And another one of my favorites is Tim Ferriss podcasts. And there's a lot more, but man, those will keep you busy for a long time. And Mimi, congratulations. I understand that
That's
you
awesome.
made a career change.
She certainly did, and she's with an awesome team. But Barry, thank you again for joining. I just popped you in because I wanted to answer Mimi's question. I thought it was a good question. Thank you. All right, Mimi, you got your question answered. And George Fernandez, great interview, good job. And that reminder is going to be sponsoring our show at the end of the month. Let me find it here. I had the notes here on May 30th in Yoast, bringing the perspective of how Mother's Day went in Holland and how Mother's Day went in California. And again, Dreams Floral Corp will be promoting, sponsoring that. Sorry, lots of words there for a second. We'll be sponsoring that, so we're super excited to have that's what we're doing for the industry. And then on the 23rd, we're having, wait for this one, Commerce Drew from Kanaka is an influencer. I really love his energy. So he's coming on the show. The guest is going to be announced, but he is coming on the show, Jimmy did, to give him a platform. Again, the intention of this new platform, new model, you could say, is really to be highlighted, to ask questions, to get out there and really give them a voice. So we're very excited with everyone's support throughout these and chiming in and really understanding that this show is for the community. It's about innovating, connecting, and bloom, and the way that we can do that after we saw COVID is coming together as a community to share our stories and share more information. Very much thank you very much to Jimmy the Tulip and to Barry Gottlieb as well for joining, and I look forward to seeing podcasts and watching the podcast that he just suggested. So we hope that you chime in next week or next month. Have a great for you to take a minute and meditate. I was about to ask Barry to give us a 2-minute meditation, but I myself am doing a mindful meditations and different things like that, and it really does help for us that we're so multitasking. So it is very important. I'm glad it's so important for us to take a moment and be in silence, right? So it's so important. We never really have that. So again, thank you to these two gentlemen, which we could just even share more. Barry's podcast recommendation. Give me a second. Podcast, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty. Thank you. Me just couldn't type it as I was talking. Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, Brene Brown, which my wife loves, Tim Ferriss, and thanks, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate everybody that spent your time, and see you next time.